Maybe I should unmute us now, right?
Yeah, maybe so.
Beautiful.
If it's not one thing. I promise, guys, I have done this before. No professionals were harmed in the making of this stream.
I almost believe you.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Let me see if I'm gonna. They're dropping the link over there, and people will be joining us. Thank you.
Good
I'm
deal.
sorry for the problem. We have got Jim Majors, this guy over here, joining me as the guest host of the show this morning for the first time. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah. First,
good, man.
when your stream falls through, yeah. And we've got David Worley. Good morning, David. How are you doing?
Hello.
Awesome.
I hope people have found the link.
Yes.
I've obviously thrown out the wrong one
Yes.
to Twitter, but there we are.
Yes, me too. And those who've shown up to the show, they are moving over. That's wonderful. And I'll continue to herd them this way as you guys as we talk this morning. So sorry about that. It was technical problems, difficulties. Yes.
I think we have just about everybody over here. We have 15 people over here.
Yeah. All the cool people are over here.
Yeah, we got Neil and Nana and Best Name Ever.
There you go.
And John Anthony, Nerdy Rodent, and Stephanie Steen.
Awesome. There you go. I'm almost there. Oh,
yeah.
Live link. And now I'll be able to see. Yeah, so
gosh, I'm gonna butcher this. Joy Okafor?
Okafor?
Sorry, I'm not gonna do that a third time.
All right, yes, I found the stream. Thank you all for joining us. I am sorry. There was technical difficulties, but we figured it out. And again, like I said, we have Jim Majors joining us for the first time, and Dave Worley has joined us. Dave, if you don't mind, can you introduce yourself and tell the folks? I'm sure I can't imagine there's nobody here who doesn't know you. Oh, hey, Randy. Good morning, Randy. And Wes. Wes is back.
Hey, Casey.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, give us a kind of an introduction and tell us about yourself. What do you do, man?
Yeah, I think they've all made it over, so that's good. So I do a podcast in which I interview various different individuals, such as both of you who have been on. To which I have to obviously remind Jim to get into my DMs at some point because it's been a while. And yeah, we try and normalize atheists to the point where it's not actually the aim, as it were. That's the result. So I'm just trying to have interesting conversations with people. And I was speaking to Paul Agia about things like Star Trek, but then we were also talking about Kent Hovind, or these sorts of things. So there is a bit of a mismatch, and yeah, I've had some, as far as I'm concerned, pretty big guests very recently on, and I'm very happy that we're in quarantine for that reason. So I'm loving it. This is great. This is great for the podcast. It's great for streaming. So
yeah.
Sorry to anyone who's had relatives go to hospital or whatever. But
yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
true. Well, I hate to say this. I thought my stream would swell with so many people being home, but everybody's sleeping late. Like Dave. Dave sleeps late, and so I don't.
Hello.
Yes.
And he's got quite a few hours on us.
He does.
I think he's got like 6 hours on us.
Do you need coffee, Dave? Do you drink coffee?
I don't. I currently got Pepsi. It's caffeine based. It's all right.
Alias
should be all right. It should be okay.
Alias fake. No, wait. It was Nerdy Rodent. Nerdy Rodent wants to know if you're vegan. Now, are you vegan?
No, this is a question that came from my stream. What would have been like something like 36 hours ago or something like that with Alex O'Connor.
Yeah.
And we had a very interesting back and forth over it. And I don't think I fully articulated my own point. I'm definitely not vegan. I'd be classified by Alex as a flexitarian in that I've made a significant reduction, but as and when I please, I still eat mainly chicken or something like that if I'm eating out. So in terms of like an update and trying to articulate my position, I think I realized at some point last night that I have a fundamental core belief that I don't know whether I can quite justify, but sounds reasonable. Okay. So the idea is that my own pleasures and my own pain are directly linked to the longevity of my life.
Right.
So if I have like intense stressful periods from my life, that will literally cut years off of my lifespan, not
Right.
just through if I'm stressed, let's say I get cancer or something like that. We're starting with light topics in the morning. Okay. So if something like that happens, then that's obviously still going to potentially shorten my lifespan, but it will be shortened even further by the psychological stress. So I can, it all depends on my attitude as to how I would approach such a problem, as to whether I have slightly more time to deal with it, kind of thing. So it's always better to have a optimistic attitude in that respect. So when that gets applied to veganism, I think sometimes it might sound like an excuse, but I still think taste is a huge pivotal factor in why we choose the foods we actually do.
Mhm.
And so when I'm thinking about, let's say, vegan products, it has to be a like for like product. I can't sacrifice my own pleasures for the sake of the animal, because then I know I'm literally valuing taste buds over a life form. But from a personal selfish perspective, which is the only perspective I can, deal with, I must act in my own best interests first. And so if there is a cogent argument that could say, let's say soy milk. I hate soy milk. I think it tastes disgusting, right?
Okay.
But if I changed all the milk I drink to soy milk and just had that slight, it probably wouldn't have that much of an effect on my life. But if I did that for every single product and just went full vegan, then that would add up, and then I would end up being unhappier day by day.
Right.
That would erode me, if that makes it. That's my belief. So, yeah, I'm still working through the actual idea. I'm not against vegans. I've changed certain products. I completely. I now eat the alternative mints, because that's now actually cheaper than real mints as well. It's one of the only things that is. Whereas if I changed to Oatly milk, for example, which this is a point I didn't get in with Alex, is it's about 150 a litre for oat milk, but it's 48 pence. It's like 3 times cheaper for normal milk.
Right.
So that obviously still has a factor. And I think to an extent, Alex doesn't have that the real world experience, in that he's still at uni. He's still got a certain amount of money in the bank, and he's not paying rent, and he's never had to. And, those sorts of things might then sort of affect his ideas later on. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I tend to look at myself as like as an omnivore, obviously. I would say carnivore, because I do love meat, but I've cut back on it a lot because I've changed the source of my meat a whole lot. Since I bought the farm, obviously, I've tried to shift as much as possible coming from the farm, which most of my stuff does, the groceries and stuff. I get lazy and buy loaf bread and gallon milk and stuff like that from the store. But I would say, with the exception of eating out, which I rarely do, I would say 95% of all of my protein comes from my farm. And so I've shifted to a cruelty-free stance. Like, I just think it's really important to be mindful about where, what goes into your food. I think that there is something to be said for the disconnect that people have when they don't have that connection with the animal.
Yeah.
Me and here in our home, we've moved away from real meat, except for like Dave said, chicken in most cases. And even then, we eat these burgers. I like the taste of a burger, but even whenever I do eat real meat, I'm really funny about it. The burger's got to be well done. The steak, I know I'm one of those well done kind of guys. If it's raw, and if your steak is so raw it's trying to eat my salad, That's just nasty. You know, that's just nasty.
Just cut off its horns, wipe its butt, and put it on the plate.
That's what I've heard.
Like that's all I want.
That's what I've heard, and that's just not. You know, I just can't. Ooh, but now we've gotten to where we buy these burgers that are made out of beans, I think, or something, and they taste really. They're really pretty tasty and delicious, and no cows were harmed. You know, I enjoy that part of it. My mouth don't notice the difference.
Right.
My stomach does a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it makes a lot of noise after. You know, we also eat these corn dogs. Corn
Right.
dogs. No dogs were harmed.
It
Made out of beans.
really takes a whole lot. Like you really, you know, like when I open up a freezer, you know, I see like all the beef and stuff like that. Like it really makes me question my meal choices. You know, I really appreciate it so much more. And well, and the same goes for the vegetables too. You know, you know, squash, beans, tomatoes, like pretty much anything, except for maybe rice. Don't grow rice, but even corn and stuff like that. You know, it has a lot more meaning.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it for me is the harm. I didn't watch Alex's thing, and I've heard that other people in the atheist community are angry with Alex because he's done something about atheism. I don't know what it is, the veganism. I don't know. I just heard, right?
Yeah.
But I do understand without knowing. You know, if you don't want to hurt animals, I can get on board with that really quickly.
You see, what he did is he started a bandwagon that the bandwagon people don't want to jump on.
Okay.
So I think that's the big problem.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know enough. That didn't help.
Well, he's passionate about it. He's very passionate about it. He speaks on it a lot. He debates on it a lot. And he has good arguments. I don't think that he has bad arguments. I just don't think that they are good enough for me to change my position.
Well, you know,
I can clarify as well.
Okay, in my case, I'm a lot like Dave referred to him. I'd never heard that description before, but we try to avoid eating meat most of the time. But we do eat it as a staple. You know, I mean, pepperoni on a pizza. To me, it's hard to see that as bad. You know, unlike a steak or a burger. You know, things like that. But we're moving that direction. And I thought that was kind of where you were going, Dave. You know, it's like, except for, you know, if we eat a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, the differences are subtle, or to me anyway. If we ate, we would probably live longer and live healthier, especially if we ate less, than if we just carried on with our meat eating ways and, you know, meat and all the other things that go with it. I thought that was what you were talking about, living longer, living healthier by avoiding those things. Or is it giving up that longer life for the taste?
That's a fair point. So
pineapple on pizza. Drummond, don't make me bounce you. No, sorry. Good morning, Drummond. Nice to have you. I hope I said that right. Drummond. I'm sorry, David. Go ahead. I saw pineapple on pizza. I had to react. Yeah. There was a reaction.
No, that's fine. So there could be several things to point out. So in terms of, let's get to your direct question first about the longevity of life. That's fine. So I clarify that as the longevity of my healthy life. Okay. It's not necessarily the years. I maybe misspoke. No, if I end up living for, let's say I live for 90 years, but 30 of them were with dementia, and then I changed that to 70 years, but then say 65 of those years were healthy, then I've gone from 60 healthy years to 65 healthy years, and that's like illness free kind of thing. So that's certainly how I would clarify it.
But is that an upside though? Because like you know, I think most people realize it, but I don't think some people do, that when you take years off your life, you're only taking off the last ones, like the ones on the end. Like you can't like pick out like your awkward teenage years or anything like that. Like it's always like the really crappy ones at the end. Like who wants those anyways?
Okay, well here's my understanding. All right, so I keep on eating pasta and meat and all these things, and let's say my health deteriorates to the point where I'm 55 and I need medical intervention to keep me on. I end up living to 70, but I have to have all these pills and shots, and I lose a foot and all that. But man, I can eat anything I want. Or I become a vegan, I limit my intake, and I live to be 90 years old, and all but the last 2 or 3 of those are really good. These are the way I see it in my head. How am I wrong about that?
Okay.
Am I wrong about that?
It's all about your standard of quality of life.
Right. Well, what's the difference? I mean,
because to one person, eating food that tastes good may be worth losing a leg over, but to some people, they would rather, eat mediocre food or not be satisfied in that fulfilling way you can be when you eat good food, in order to keep a leg and get 10, 20 years extra.
It would be damaging to his mental health, I believe. Is that my understanding what you were saying, David? To have
to an extent. I treat the psychological well-being as like a secondary one to the physical well-being, because obviously your body has to physically work. So if I then go into the physical side of things, because I realized the precarious nature of this argument, given that when I have a pizza, I don't actually check how many nutrients are in it, but I know that meat is nutrient dense, and to the point where I was to do some research, and I didn't actually bring it up with Alex, but for a 250 gram steak, which is that'd be too small for American standards, I'm sure, but you'd have to have 600 I think like 700 grams of chickpeas to have the same nutritional value for like. So it then becomes slightly impractical, and so you have to then revert to these alternative products that are coming out from companies like corn, and they end up doing like a mycoprotein roast, or one of the worst products on the market, which is the fake bacon.
And what are they having to do for those croplands, and what would they have to do to supply all of society with that?
I don't actually know how much in terms of the crop lands that are used to produce mycoprotein. I know that there are certain ways we could go about just being, generally speaking, more efficient on plant growth. So things like
animals too. Because I know that there's like an argument about these these factory farms, where they just pack in animals, real tight together, and have like methane problems and deforestation problems. I don't think that where we're at now is healthy, but I don't think that means that we need to run to the polar extreme.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think typically going forwards as well, there was a second part of the argument which I gave to Alex, and maybe this is just another belief, that the healthiest position would also be the most diverse position. Now, I may be playing fast and loose with the ambiguity of the word diverse.
Sure.
But typically speaking, as far as I'm concerned, a variety of diet in terms of omnivorism is more likely to satiate the micronutrients and those things that aren't put on labels and packaging that we can never know about.
Yeah.
So,
obesity.
Lab-grown, sorry,
but obesity.
Well, I wasn't trying to set a position for myself whenever I was saying that. I mean, here's my deal. Actually, I'm a almost diabetic. I'm actually a diabetic. I'm right on the line of being diabetic. I know. So I've already explained to you my belief concerning how these things work. If I were to do this, I would live longer and be healthier. And yet knowing these things, or at least believing them, don't do them. So I understand what it's talking about people who are willing to sacrifice that long life for the food. I totally get it. Totally. But I think where a lot of people's issue lies is not really with your choices and whether you want to please your mouth or your body. It's how many animals you want to mercilessly harm to do that. If we could do it without harming the animals, that would be wonderful. You know what I'm saying? I think that's kind of the point some people are trying to take.
What do you mean not harming?
See, there's another line to be drawn, right there.
Right, are we talking about like quick killings? Like,
see, I agree. Go ahead, Dave. Let's see what Dave has to say.
I put forward the idea of lab grown meat towards Alex, and he's answered this question already.
What'd you say? Low what
video.
meat?
Lab grown.
Lab grown.
Oh, I love the idea of lab grown meat myself, but carry on.
So yeah, the idea that I put forward to him was that that potentially you could, in a thought experiment, he says things like, "What would your grandchildren say about this sort of practice of lowering pigs into whatever it was, liquid nitrogen, and then their last 30 seconds of their life is suffering, and like it's not an instant death, and yeah, we'll get judged for that." But your grandchildren might also, or at least my generations, might then turn around and say, well, yeah, okay, we get sentientism. It's like humanism, but for animals as well. What about organismism, whatever you'd want to call it, including plants? Because they're still evolved life forms. So if there was some sort of metric, not quite the pain scale, because I don't feel pain, but if there was another metric by which we could justify valuing plant life in the same way, and if the efficiency with which we produce lab-grown meat means that we are killing less plants to make lab-grown meat rather than just eating them for veganism, does that mean that there'll be children in the future that will say, why are you vegan? Like, you should be eating lab-grown meat. We can adjust the amount of fat we have. We could adjust like all these little micronutrients we could throw in there. And then what I'm referring to as future carnism would be the moral default setting. It won't necessarily be the healthiest thing to do, because I would advocate for future omnivorism, in that we should just replace that entire meat industry with lab-grown meat, and then the problem's solved.
Yeah. But you have to wait for that to become a sustainable option.
Yeah, I mean, we can't starve our civilization out.
Right.
We have to eat between now and then. But that's a goal to reach for, right?
Like, how long does it take to grow, a steak?
And in terms of comparing, like growing a animal, that will take, I don't know, 3 years or something like that. Yeah. But then you could do a lab-grown meat burger in a few weeks. Like it's in a lab. It's in a much smaller amount of land. The amount of land that you have to use, the amount of plants you grow that the animal eats.
Yes.
That you then there's so many knock-on effects. We could end up using that land for housing, and then it has like that sort of impact on politics. And
one of the arguments I've made, people always go, "Oh, I don't want that lab-grown meat. I won't eat that." Well, if you laid 10 burgers out here from Burger King, McDonald's, Whataburger, you know what I mean, and you just laid 10 out, they're so different. It's not like a burger tastes like a burger at every place. It's different. So you could line that lab-grown burger up. No animals were harmed. These were the positives of it. And people wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And yet they complain. They're solely happy if an animal was harmed to make them full. That's what kind of pisses me off. I've heard people, I'm from Texas, right? So I hear these kind of things. No, I ain't eating that. Ain't no way I'm gonna eat that. Hell with that. But again, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference. The burger I ate, the veggie burger that's made out of beans, my mouth couldn't tell the difference. It tasted like a burger. They put beet juice in it so it bleeds like a burger until you cook it all off. I mean, but the notion that pleasing my mouth isn't good enough, I have to insist that an animal be harmed in order for this to. That's kind of. I don't like
it. I think I'll add to that as well by saying, if the lab-grown meat, let's say it's completely affordable, it's a like-for-like price, and everything else is exactly the same, but the taste isn't up to it. I think I might still have it, but in the same way that I've currently got some of the vegan burgers in there, and some of them are they're good enough, but it's not quite there yet. If it fell below that line and it just tasted disgusting, I think I would just carry on eating meat.
Yeah,
and it would have to be a better product.
Well, it's one of those deals where you would eat a cheap, crappy burger from McDonald's, and that's fine. But this meat burger, this lab-grown meat burger that is, big, fat, and juicy, it has to meet certain measures. It has to jump over these bars. that the McDonald's burger doesn't. You know, oh, what is that? Oh,
Oh, the only
you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
just saying how people treat the notion of it. I get it. We're a ways away from that, but I'm all about the non-harm of the animals. Kind of what my goal.
Yeah, the actual, burger sauce, the lettuce, the bun itself is all exactly the same. So in that respect, burgers probably isn't the best example. Maybe like the texture of a steak, or particularly
That's
when
true.
I'm thinking of corn chicken. It has these little pieces and it's all like really squidgy. And it's like that's not chicken.
Yeah,
It doesn't taste like chicken. It's
Right.
like this really off texture. That's like
that is
Well,
true.
and I mean, do we have any long-term studies on this too? I mean, we don't have long-term studies on lab-grown meat.
Right. We do have long-term studies on
Neither
what
do I.
eating meat does. We've already talked
sure.
about that. Unmitigated.
When eating it in the wrong amounts and in the wrong, and maybe cooked the wrong way, but that goes for anything.
Right. That's true. That's true. If we could get to that point, I mean, it would take technology. We need to do the research. These
Right.
labs, it's expensive to do this thing, but as more people do it and more people grow it, the price will come down.
Right.
And then, of course, we'll also have more long-term studies. Most of what goes, I'm not sure what goes into the lab-grown meat, but what goes into the veggie burgers is veggie crap. I mean, it's beans and stuff we were already familiar with.
Right. But you can offer the variety. Like you can be able to have briskets, because like
That's the hard
cookouts,
part.
it's American, or
That's right.
ribs or a steak, or is it just ground beef or?
Yep. So I totally get it. That's at the point at where we have to insist that an animal be harmed. You know what? Because I want to have a barbecue for no other reason than the fact that I want to fire up my pit in the backyard and invite my buddies over and knock back a few cold brews. That's the only part. We could do anything else. We could go bowling. We could go fishing. Fishing, right? How does fishing fit in there? But, just solely despite that, we could even have veggie burgers. We could have fake meat burgers, we could have fake meat hot dogs, we could have all that stuff, yet we're going to insist on brisket because we want to have something that's killed off an animal. Now, if they could copy the brisket and make it to where it's indistinguishable, I get it. But you know what I mean? Of course, these are bars and metrics we have to change over time.
So like for me, that's a lot like hunting. I still hunt, even though I have animals and I don't need to. I like to hunt one deer every year. That's just something that I like to do, and it's because it connects me, to my heritage, to my ancestors, and it just that primitive link that you have. I don't think that's something that we're ever going to be able to shake.
Right. That just depends. I mean, on how we go in the future. It's not the argument I wanted to have this morning to sit here and go, okay, so that's a great example.
Yeah.
So one deer every year has to sacrifice its life solely for your tradition, your notion of tradition, solely for that and nothing else. A deer, a creature. It has children.
Yeah.
It's a mother, it's a father, I don't know how deer hunting works. I don't know if you shoot just the mommy deers.
It's a father. I shoot young bucks.
Young bucks.
They take the young foal and be like, look at that.
Well, and also something needs to be said for conservation and population control, which is why they issue tags and bag limits.
But what they could do is they could put out feed that renders a certain percentage sterile. There's other ways to control population,
right?
Rather than murdering creatures.
You can chemically castrate them, like that.
If you took out, let's say wolf hunting, or let's say deer hunting, the deer are getting populous, a lot of deer, many deer, and so Jim, yeah. So Jim goes out, and for the next few years, Jim and them go out and they shoot tranquilizer guns that have sterilization stuff, and that's the deal. Instead of killing the deer, your goal is to tag. You get points somehow. I don't know. It's just the murder or the killing of is I don't know. There's a time in our civilization where we no longer need to do those things solely for the purpose of
don't need to. I don't need to now.
That's right.
I mean, but you don't need to eat meat.
That's true, and that's the purpose of the conversation. I'm actually on my way. Prepared to. Meat actually kind of disgusts me, as we've already discussed anyway. So that's kind of, I'm headed that way naturally anyway, so it's not a really
Right.
good. I would.
Right.
It would be bad of me to say, "Look at me being a good example," because that's more because it's disgusts me and I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a good example if you're wanting to go to veganism, but if you're wanting to know where your food comes from, and if you want to know how important it is and what has to sacrifice in
Mhm.
order for you to live, then I think that it's important for you to have that experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Could I ask
Yeah.
very briefly, because I think I'm probably the only person in the UK, maybe it is all people in the UK. What actually is a brisket? Because I'm not sure.
It's a big roast from like the chest, like the front shoulder chest area, and it's usually cooked like 10-12 hours low and slow over smoke, like in a smoker. It's real big in like the barbecue cook-offs and stuff like that.
Or
Okay.
ribs or something else. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
there are things that I could see being really difficult to do. I just have my own views, especially about animals. But that's just how I am. I try not to. Again, I asked Jim on the show to be my co-host, not to ambush him about his hunting and his treatment of
Jim.
animals. And yet,
So, but David, so I want to go ahead and change the subject real quick
Please.
because I found something out this morning. I don't know if you knew, but your YouTube channel's anniversary is on April 25th. It's on the 25th of this month. It'll be 2 years that you've had your channel, and you've got what, almost 1,200 subscribers or something like that.
Something like that, just slightly under, yeah. So April 25th is the actual official channel date that was made. I didn't actually make a video till a few months later when I had David Fitzgerald on.
Right.
And I was in America at the time, so I couldn't actually do any podcasts. I did 3 podcasts until November. So those first 6 months wasn't actually very much, but carry on.
So in less than 2 years, you've had a podcast, very successful one. You've had on people like Anthony, what's his name, Seidel. It's Andrew Seidel. Andrew Seidel. Andrew Seidel. Dang it. Seth Andrews, Arn Raw, Jim Majors. And you also stream gaming content. You're planning an anti-theist convention or an atheist convention. And an alternative convention. And you collaborate with other content creators. You've got over 1,000 subs, all in less than 2 years. So what advice would you give to people who are wanting to take the same path that you're on, like YouTubing and or YouTubering? I don't know, what is the colloquial term for that?
Streaming. Well,
content creating.
Content creating.
Content creating the contents. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. We all also call it chrissing.
Cressing?
Yeah. Chrissing. Doing a Chris.
Doing a Chris. Gotcha.
Yeah, sorry. So advice. My initial reaction is just to be sarcastic and say, actually, don't create your channel because that helps us. But it's always great to have more people coming in because there's this almost fundamental idea amongst the smaller YouTubers whereby that comes from Holy Kool-Aid, and that when they were starting, you hear the story that actually collaboration and trying to build everybody's channel raises the tide for everyone, or like the words to that effect.
Right.
So to have so many people, I mean, I pretty much every podcast I've had 128, and I'm going to have Peter Boghossian tonight.
Oh wow, that's awesome! I love Peter Boghossian.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a second. But yeah, in terms of advice, you really just have to obviously start and don't feel like you have to be perfect straight away. People will know from being regular on my channel that this microphone and this, hold on, this one you can't see is protected by that isolation stand, and that was not there for 80 podcasts. Okay. Now, I think I've pretty much nailed my sound down, as it were. I hope this isn't causing too much disruption to the actual sound, trying to move everything around.
No.
But there are these things that will eventually improve in an evolutionary way. They will just make these small increments, and they will eventually get better to the point where we, as far as I'm aware, are in stunning HD, and we're, you know, there's all sorts of this fake fire stuff flying around. There's hexagons that are sort of fading in and out, and there's like this pulsing thing, and you know, these things won't happen straight away. No, this looks great. but in terms of some succinct advice, just get any form of content out there, and then you will eventually be self-critical, and you will say, look, I'm not happy with this, and to the point where I did a response video to Alex about a year ago.
I think I remember that.
Refined my ideas. Yeah, and I wasn't very well made. It was too cut. Like every 5 seconds, I wasn't speaking at length. It's always better to make some notes. If you're doing a response video, make some notes and then just rivet, and then cut it later, rather than try and script word for word, because then it just becomes. Because this is the way we're talking now is very, very different to where I would do a scripted video.
Of course.
And
really,
and it's not. It comes across as nowhere near as authentic, because whenever you're talking to somebody, particularly if you're doing live content, you never know what's going to happen in 30 seconds. You don't know what people are going to say, and so I'm still formulating the end of this sentence before I actually got to it. You know,
True.
So don't worry too much about the actual quality of the outcome. You will eventually get there. If people are geared towards trying to produce quality content very quickly, there are many different people that you can get in touch with, particularly on Twitter, including us three. Chris Offstream was offering help on OBS Studio and trying to get that working. You know, there are people that can improve the quality of your stream very quickly. In terms of what sort of content that you want to do, try a number of different things, because when I started the game, it was on YouTube, and then I asked people, and people said, no, we don't want it on YouTube, put it on Twitch. So that's now segregated. You will, if you're lucky, you'll get a massive scandal happening on your channel, and be able to milk that for content. And whenever that does happen, make sure that you don't do a Steve McRae and just do 6 months of just that content. Continue doing whatever you do.
Or just find a really contentious philosophical position and just really harp on that for a couple of years.
Yeah, just hammer the shit out of it. Good morning, Digital Habarati. It's nice to have you.
Yeah. Just beat through the horse.
Yeah, Gotham Scummer. That's right. Steve is such a divisive person in the but I don't know. Anytime I've engaged with Steve, he's always been a fun person. But anytime I see him out in the community, he's in some kind of dust up with somebody, and
I consider Steve a good friend, but he's always starting shit. Always.
Now I don't know. Do people come at him as much as sometimes he'll post these things where people just come at him out of the random,
and he loves it. Like he'll go out and get like an ice cream or something like that, and get all set up in a coffee shop and get ready for it, and just be like, all right, let's see what they got.
Yeah, he probably does.
I should say, I'm just in case Steve does see this, I'm still on good terms. Like I'd still happily have him on the channel. I'm not I'm just stating a fact, really.
We tease.
We're teasing. We're not.
And he knows. I don't think he would deny anything that we're saying.
Well, he's
hard to deny, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain reality to everything. Even if he's not doing it on purpose, and it's just the nature of the way the internet has treated him, it works. The drama has fed his channel, and he's got a successful channel, or more successful than any of us. No offense.
He does. He has a really successful channel.
So if the drama is what works for him, I guess it works. Now me, I'm I've got my scripted videos that I do, and that's really what I'm more about. Like David was saying, there's a difference, a wholehearted difference between the scripted videos and doing what we're doing here. Absolutely.
Well, and one thing that I think that people go into YouTube thinking, and that I thought going into YouTube, was that I would be able to control my audience and I would be able to appeal to a certain demographic that I wanted to appeal to. But you cannot help your audience. Like, your audience is your audience.
Yeah, how naive.
Well,
to add to that, if I may,
please.
I was going to say, I said I was going to be succinct, then I wasn't, but. If I had to put it into one word, it would be authenticity. So when we end up going live, I mean, there's no way out of it. If you ask me a hard question, I don't have an answer, and I try to fake an answer, people know from my facial expressions or whatever it may be. And so sometimes if you end up doing a response video and you're not actually that enthused about what you're doing, you feel like, oh, my audience wants this sort of content. And you do that content, your heart's not in it, and that really it doesn't matter what content you're doing. It's whether you actually care about it. And so try and I take a quote from Royksop. I don't know if Kristen in the comments, who's in Sweden, knows very much about the Norwegian band I'm speaking about, but they have a song called "True to Life." And so that's the phrase I use. Be true to life, be true to yourself, and just do content that you enjoy, you're enthusiastic about, and then the masses will come.
Yeah, it's like what Kevin Costner says in The Field of Dreams. He says, "If you build it, he will come."
Yes, yeah. I got to be honest, I've never seen that.
Me neither.
It's really not as good as everybody makes it out to be.
Okay, Tin Cup.
It's kind of like every John Wayne movie ever, you know.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Like, everybody says it is great, but it's just like the other ones.
You know, there's a couple. I don't know if y'all want to go the movie direction. I actually enjoyed several of his movies. Yes. Now I got Digital Hammurabi on the channel. I'd love to get you on. He's in the chat. I'd love to give him in the channel. On the show. That's wonderful.
I wonder if it's Megan or Josh. It's probably
Josh, I think.
Probably Megan. Oh, is it Josh?
They said it was Josh, yeah.
I see.
Hello, Dr. Josh.
Yes.
He's my future ex-husband.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Jim has got a channel. He's trying to grow it. It's you want to tell us about your channel real quick to remind us, Jim, about what you've got going on? Your mustache. I actually had to contact both of them, him and his mustache, to get him to co-host.
Oh man,
it's technically his agent. It's yeah, so
oh man. I'm Jim, and this is my mustache. I do anti-apologetics. I do response videos, debates, reference videos. I'm trying to put out a lot more content, but go and subscribe to me and tell me what you want to hear, and I'll tell it to you real sweet.
Real sweet. Yeah. What now the debates? What's your next debate coming up?
My next debate coming up is on Christian morality versus secular humanism, and that is coming up in 2 weeks, I think, on the 15th.
Gotcha. And you, Dave, who you have coming up on your show next?
The only person I have in the can at the minute is Peter Boghossian tonight, which will be in 5 hours. So
nice.
Yeah, he's going to be coming on to talk about his latest, newest book, How to Have Impossible Conversations. And that's actually the thing I wanted to try and get out there, because something has really resonated when he speaks of creating golden bridges. I don't know if either of you have read the book.
Yeah.
Well, for Chris's sake, then.
Yeah.
The idea is you'll any ideas that you had 10 years ago that you might think, oh, that's just a stupid idea. You'll have that in 10 years' time for today, right? So in order to go from one idea to the other, you have to think of it like two islands, two different ideas, and there's a bridge between them. But the bridge you have to build is a golden bridge, so there aren't any barriers to pass. You have to pass freely from one to another, and there are some things that we naturally intend or are inclined to do, such as if Jim, for example, if we all decided that mustaches were stupid or something like that, and then Jim was just like, no, it's perfectly fine, okay, and then Jim one day got the idea it was like so immoral to have a mustache or whatever claim we were making, and then he shaved it all off, and then we then go to Jim and go, oh, it's about time. Then that mockery of Jim will actually put him off traveling across the bridge from one idea to another, because he fears the stigma kind of thing. So we have to look at the way we treat each other when it comes to changing our ideas, especially if we're changing the ideas of people that we know very closely, like family members or whatever. And if they do want to change their minds, sometimes the manner in which we're coming across is the main reason why people don't change their ideas. It's not the idea itself.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's
it's
just point.
I think it's because so many people that they don't realize that the individual requires an individual approach. You can't just take the same old treatment and throw it at each person in line. You have to tailor your argument, and even the way you present it, even if it's the same argument, you have to really put yourself in their position. You have to be very empathetic in order to be successful in it.
It's worth mentioning that ideas get changed in private. Like the bigger the group, the more you are to stick to your ideas, and it doesn't matter what other people think. You could be in a crowd of people who agree with you. You could be in a crowd of people who completely disagree with you. We could take it back to the veganism. If somebody wants to change their argument to veganism, but they're surrounded by a mob or even so much as 2 or 3 people who are going, you're just a despicable human being. Like, what are you doing? Why are you contributing to this? You'll be more likely to put up a fight rather than to say, actually, yeah, maybe in a few days or a few weeks, you'll be thinking about it on your own. And that's when your mind gets changed. So, yeah, but people just have to bear that in mind when they're talking to people on Twitter or something like that.
That's an interesting point. Hey, Jim, and kind of related almost. There's a question in the chat about who you're going to debate morality with.
S.J. Thompson.
Yeah.
S.J. Thompson on your channel, or on some other.
It's going to be on Modern Day Debate.
Modern Day Debate channel.
Yeah.
Could you?
I'm trying to find an atheist. Well, both James at Modern Day Debate and I are trying to find a counterpart for me to debate on Easter, on the resurrection. So if anybody knows any theists, or if you're a Christian and would like to debate on the resurrection, holla at your boy.
I might know a guy.
Yeah, you know a guy?
Maybe Deacon James. Is that his name, John Anthony? John Anthony, one of the people in my chat, was going to debate.
Hey, John.
Hi, John. He was going to debate Deacon James. I believe Deacon James is a real deacon. He's actually live streams his his prayers or whatever from home. He's got the whole white collar deal. I don't know, but he might be willing to debate you. He tried to get me to debate him. I'm like, I'm not going to debate you. At the time he was just some guy in my chat on YouTube. I had no idea who he was. And now I've seen that he's actually putting out YouTube content or streaming content about preaching, and he's reading his Bible and doing things. He might be interested. Catholic, even, if that's works for you.
It doesn't matter. I just want. It sounds really just egotistical of me, but I need a challenge.
Yeah.
From SJ.
yeah. So I don't think Deacon John. I think it is Deacon James. Yeah, it's Deacon James. Yeah, so I'll see about putting that together and seeing if getting him with you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And who? That's James, right? That runs that other show.
Modern Day Debate.
Modern Debate. What's his name again?
James Coons.
James Coons. I need to get with him. Maybe get him on my show.
Oh no, you wouldn't want him. He's a super beta.
I
Oh,
feel like
okay, I get it. You guys are laughing. You guys think it's a joke. I get it. I get it. It's funny.
You're mean, Jim. You're kind of mean a little bit, just a little bit. There's a little bit of mean Jim in there.
No, it's all done. It's all done with love. Like, I mean, like they'll be watching it for a split second. They'll be like, "Hey," but then they'll be like, "Hey," you know. It's it's fine. It's fine.
I'll have to check it out and see if he's willing to come on the show, just for fun. Even if he is a beta, well, we'll put him on bottom.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Good morning, Uri Bench. Thank you for joining us this morning. I think you got here just as we're about to close down. Somebody's wrestling with Stream Elements chatbot.
Vibrantly, yeah.
I know people come in my chat. They're like, "Yay, Chris!" and they do it in all caps. My bot bounces their ass. Like, don't just bounce.
Man,
I need to work on my bot.
Wow.
Really, you're talking about like I'm a little harsh. Like, jeez.
I know. Well, let me ask you, Jim. The question was put in the thing, but you didn't say how long have you had the stash?
Oh,
I mean,
on and off, but mostly on for like the past 4 or 5 years.
When was the first time you? Oh, I know the story. You know how you met in the chat, but when was the first time you grew it and you're like, "Hey, I can grow one of these"? I've never stopped to see if I could grow one.
I couldn't grow facial hair until I was 19, probably. Like, not even peach fuzz. It was awful. And then it was just like a few hairs on my chin. I still can't grow a beard for crap. But then for some reason, I started growing a pretty nice mustache, like in my mid to late 20s, and I was like, all right, let's capitalize on this.
Yeah. And you, David, can you grow anything?
I knew you were going to ask. No, there's a few people, because I sometimes work with kids that have said it, or I can't remember. It was of all people, objectively Dan, who was saying it the other day on Twitter, and they were looking at my face and be like, "Oh, you've got a mustache. It's like a little bit grey around here," which is just naturally great. And it's like, yeah, but that's not a mustache. Like it's just grey. Like, it's just where the hair follicle is. Like, I can't like go under the skin and just like hook it out, you know. But maybe with laser or something. But yeah, I'm sure Jim would agree that I do not have a mustache.
Yeah. Well, I have a twin brother, and he can't grow anything over here, really. I mean, he kind of can. It's splotchy. Splotchy, is that the word? Yeah. Godless Scummer says that Jeff says you ought to grow a face hair for November.
Right.
Let me ask you about that. Have you canceled that yet, or no? Is it still on? When was it? What's happened? What up?
For DaveCon.
DaveCon, yeah. Can you update us? If you did already,
sure.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
That's all right, because when you've got these live shows pretty much daily, it's very difficult to then catch up with everybody's content.
Preach.
So yeah, in terms of DaveCon, yes, obviously it got delayed. It would otherwise have been hosted in 2 days. So yeah, it is. It's definitely delayed. Initially, we've put the date down as 19th of September. I expect it's going to have to be delayed again, and I've already made sure it's a stipulation with the new venue, which would be the Comedy Store in London, that we'll have at least up to a month before to push it back again, and there'd be no cost to that. So as far as I currently am planning things through, because we now have to incorporate certain costs such as UNRWA's flights, or Lloyd Owens' hotel and things like that, I feel compelled. A lot of conferences don't supply this to their speaker much in terms of the travel cost, but I think the entire cost should be covered by a conference. That's just objectively speaking. I think all conferences should do that. I realize I did say that in the subjective tense, but never mind. We will end up having to crowdfund as a result because the costs go up significantly. I can't self-fund anymore. And if I were self-funding, it means that I would have to have a ticket price of about 50 quid. And that's completely reasonable for like a all-day event. But a lot of people aren't willing to pay that price. Even though when you go through the costs with them, and it's 3,000 for the venue, and if I did catering, which I'm not even going to be able to do catering, it would be something like just tea and coffee alone would be 1,500, just tea and coffee. So that's not going to happen. Obviously, it'll add up to something like 4,000 just to the baseline of getting the event. And then international speakers are the main cost on top of that, like 4 or 5 grand. If I wanted to then get Shannon Q on top of that, and maybe Navadia would push it towards 10, 11,000. So I would have to crowdfund. So
have you thought about like doing different levels of tickets, like maybe like have breakout sessions like specifically for people who get like a premium ticket? Or
in terms of the space that we would have at a new venue to do that, I don't think that would be realistic. And I think a part of it is trying to... the way in which it's come about is obviously the anti-John and Lance stance, as it were. So I think given that they did that, I don't want to do that. Even though they did it to the nth degree and they ended up with an 800 quid ticket. It's like, that's the only way you can get a photo with Dawkins and things like that. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think you should have free access, maybe so much as standing in a line for it. You can't help, but there'll be things like a signing table at the back with merch that you can get while another act is on stage or something like that.
I was fortunate enough to be able to share a table with him at a charity event one time, and so I got a selfie.
Nice.
Yeah, but he didn't smile, so he probably charges for the smile.
With all the things going on in the world, if either one of you guys need to go, let me know. It's a little after 8. We can shut down. But things seem to be going all right. Let me ask you a question. Have either one of you seen the movie Contagion?
What is it called?
Contagion.
No. It was on ITV the other week, I think, and people were complaining about it.
Fantasia?
Contagion?
Contagion. Oh,
Contagion.
No.
Yeah. It would come out in 2011. It's got Matt Damon, quite a few other big name actors.
I've seen it on Netflix. It has like the little germ looking thing on it.
Yeah, it's a really it's a very interesting prediction as to what's happening right now. This came out in 2011. They're even talking about washing their hands, and they're telling people on the show, wash their hands, don't touch your face, beware of social distancing, all these things. It's very similar to what's going on now, except for in the movie.
Yeah,
like a lot of it's much worse, by I think this time into the way things are going, stores were getting ravaged by people going crazy and stuff like that. We haven't seen that sort of thing, but other than that, a lot of the science they put, this is 9 years ago, it was very interesting. I watched it yesterday. I couldn't believe how much they called it.
Yeah, I watched the preview, and I do remember them using the exact term social distancing, and I think he was like coughing up blood or something.
Yeah, well, I think it was they were coughing up. They would get this like foam of the mouth, they would
oh, okay,
yeah, and start kind of flopping about and stuff. But it was really interesting the way they gave you a timeline. Well, I mean,
just become a South Park character. It's like,
I'm a guys.
But it was very, very interesting. And even, at least in theirs, they didn't have, the crazy political problems we have going on in the show. At least in their show, the government was working to try to stop it. And in their deal, though, it was like death tolls into the millions very quickly.
Well, Jesus said he was coming back. He just didn't say that it was going to be like as a virus.
Well, we've joked a little bit about calling it the Christian virus. That the people on that side of the group like calling it the Chinese virus.
It makes so much sense, though. He comes on the clouds of heaven.
There you go.
That's like a rushing wind. That's
See, Digital Hammurabi says he
interesting.
thinks that it's a prophecy that proves Christianity. Okay, so we should call it the Christian plague.
Yeah.
If he says so. Right?
Yep.
I gave you a wrench so you can do.
And therefore, Trump is the Antichrist.
See, I've been saying this whole time. I've been saying it was the smell.
He's the first beast. Well, I don't know. Maybe he is the Antichrist.
I don't know. They sure seem to worship him, though, don't they? Are we going there?
Maybe, just maybe, that text had something to do with Nero and didn't really have anything to do with the future.
Oh.
I forgot Nero was God.
If only Nero could lead by example and Trump would follow. Wait, I'm not thinking.
You talking about like the assisted suicide?
Very assisted.
His secretary, because I guess he didn't have he couldn't do it. He was shaking or whatever, but he had his secretary help him shove a short sword into his neck.
Got you. Sorry, I shouldn't take so much pleasure out of such thoughts.
Yeah. Plus, have you seen the guy's neck? You're not going to get through that.
Can you imagine Pence trying to get through that? He'd have to kiss him on the neck first.
What are you doing? Stop. Mike.
Nero Romulan or the Pyromaniac. Yes. I think it's funny. Did you see the post that somebody posted about Trump playing a fiddle and he reshared it on Twitter? Look at this. I don't know what he's playing, but it must be good or something.
Oh my god.
Because he didn't get the fiddle reference. Of course, fiddles weren't invented. Anyway, funny stuff. Just checking. Future generations will use Trump as a measuring stick for terrible leadership. Yeah, guess that's very possible. The Hunt. Have I seen The Hunt? I have not. Is that The Hunt? I don't think so. What are we talking about? I need more than that.
That's the one where the guy's being hunted by another human. It's the most dangerous game, I think, movie adaptation. I don't know if you read that book or not.
No. Oh, The Hunt official trailer. No, I haven't. February 11th, 20.
Digital Hammurabi is mentioning a Freudian slip that SJ had, and I didn't see that one. I didn't get to watch the debate. But I do remember that during my debate, she said that Jesus went down on a donkey in Jerusalem.
Who said that?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that Jesus went down on a camel in Jerusalem.
Who said that again?
S.J. Thomason.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Pourquoi? Why would she say that? What did I miss? I missed something. I looked up and people are talking about Jesus.
She was flustered.
Oh, okay. Good.
She called it the digital code. Makes sense. I mean, if there's a digital Hammurabi, there's got to be a digital code, right? It just makes sense.
Andy from Laughing in Disbelief just showed up in the chat, and what is it? He shows up in the chat, and suddenly we're talking about Jesus going down on camels. There's something about this guy who brings out one heck of a donkey show, he says. Good morning, Andy. How are you doing? I don't know if you guys are familiar with Andy. He's the writer over at Laughing in Disbelief at Pathos, the blog over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you haven't had him on your show, David, you should probably be interested in getting him on your show or being on his show. He's got a one called Best Advice Ever, where he comes on and you give him the best advice you've ever had.
Yeah, 20-minute bits. Yeah. I'll get in touch anyway. I've just subscribed to head over to Twitter at Worley DR and I'll get in touch with you.
Got it. Yes, because he is awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Thank you to Jim for co-hosting with me today. I appreciate it. First time. See, you did.
Absolutely. I loved it. I had a good time.
I wasn't scared at all. Well, I was a little scared. And thank you, David, for coming on the show. I appreciate you, man. You were a lot of fun. You guys were a lot of fun. We were laughing before the show even started. These two were going at it. So it's been a hoot. I look forward. We need to get you back on the show again, David.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd come back anytime.
Maybe on the weekend because it starts a couple hours later, and I know it's like 4 in the afternoon for you, but
Yeah,
not getting time to wake up.
But Chris, what do you do on the weekend?
I do this. Apparently.
We kill animals and cook them.
Oh, we get together, but we have just a Zoom chat of just us eating our own steaks
There
at
you
our own
go.
homes. We can't get together and do it. But yeah.
You guys ain't right. You ain't right in the head.
That's a little twisted.
All right, guys, and thank you to everybody for showing up in the chat. Digital Hammurabi, I would love to have you on the show. I'd love to if you. So I'd love to talk to you about that.
They are awesome, and I can't say for sure. Of course, I'm not him, but he's very, very nice guy. I'm sure that he would if you asked him.
Gotcha. Yes, I would love to have him on the show. So thank you, everybody who showed up at the chat. Again, Andy, see you next Tuesday. Andy's my regular co-host on Tuesday. Junk Shop Library, all you people got your email. I got that. Josh, thank you very much. Everybody have a wonderful day. You guys stay safe. We will see you tomorrow. Wait, I got Marie Delafont tomorrow, so that's going to be fun. You guys see you tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so take care.
Bye.